Hello and welcome to We Will Talk About It, the Supernatural Rewatch podcast where we watch one episode every week, spoiler free. I'm Megan.
I'm Kat.
And this week we are talking about season 1, episode 16, Shadow.
Ooh.
I know, we're getting so close to the end of season 1.
So close, clawing our way, if you will.
So we haven't actually hung out for a couple of weeks.
No, it feels like a month. It feels like I've not seen you in forever. Obviously, we're in Brisbane, so we had our 4.0
tiny baby
lockdown. They're very tiny in Brisbane so far. Obviously, we can't speak for the rest of the country.
Sadly, no. Yeah, everything's not going great here in Australia with how COVID is being wrapped up.
Yeah, and also the, vaccine.
Yeah, vaccination is not going.
Look, we won't. This is actually one time I'll say we won't talk about it because it's very depressing for us going, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, and it's also, it's,
Just watching
this isn't a podcast about
politics,
or COVID or vaccination.
No,
we're here to talk about pop culture and Eric
fun
Kripke.
things, and not vaccines.
No. So, a couple of things have happened since we last actually recorded.
Yes.
The first thing is that I finally watched The Boys, season 1 and season 2, binged them hard.
Might point out, this is a show that I watched before Megan, and I put a little asterisk. The only reason why I watched it is because Megan's brother from another mother that I'm not really related, which is my boyfriend. So he was like, The Boys is hardcore. It's a hardcore comic. It's real. I believe it's a DC comic. Not DC. It's it's like the Preacher. It's that vein. Vertigo. I'm like, sorry guys, that was a ramble. I had to get there, but it's part of the DC umbrella.
Yeah. Big picture wise. But
yes.
I wouldn't describe it as a DC
comic. No.
I don't think it's in world with the DC.
No. But it's in that same, if DC was an umbrella, it's like one of the shoots off there. But it doesn't filter into the actual main DC world, with Flash and Superman and shit.
No.
So I watched it, and I've been telling Megan, you need to watch it. And if you haven't watched it, go out and watch it.
Yeah.
It's great. But also, if you're not in a good place, don't watch it because it will fuck you up.
Yeah.
But also,
yeah. So, yes, it was actually on my to-watch list last year in 2020. For some weird reason, I was not in the right mind space to watch a dark, messed up, cynical look at superheroes. Who knows why that might be. Though, I loved it. I loved it so much. It's exactly up my alley. And I was messaging Kat because I was like, did I personally cast this show? Because it's so many people that I personally am like, oh my God, I can't believe Simon Pegg is in this. I can't believe Elizabeth Shue is in this. I can't believe Shawn Ashmore is in this. All of the Goran Visnik is in it. These are all personal catnip Meghan castings. I will say, in watching The Boys, yes, it is very dark. It's very violent. It wasn't actually as dark as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But I think my bar for dark kind of messed up, fucked up television, the bar for me is Twin Peaks: The Return. So the new series that came out a few years ago. That stuff is something that I sometimes think about and just continue to quietly process. And because the Twin Peaks: The Return, I honestly I want you to go on that adventure because you're not going to enjoy it.
When we have a hiatus, since I've given you a whole bunch of shows that you must watch, like Bridgerton.
Yes.
See, I'll watch that on my hiatus. I'll put that on my hiatus list because I've given you 7 million shows. I'm like, please watch this. Please watch this.
Yeah, so that for me is the bar of messed up stuff. And this doesn't quite get there. It's pretty this isn't that messed up. It's really not. By the end I was like, this actually wasn't that messed up. I know, but that's also
Kat sitting here going oh, shit. What did I agree to?
Yeah, Twin Peaks: The Return. I mean that's a whole other podcast in and of itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really loved The Boys. I really enjoyed it. Eric Kripke, our boy.
Just sorry, interrupting you again. When we've been talking obviously about Supernatural, we're saying that music is an additional character. Billy motherfucking Joel.
Yeah.
It tweaked me, I think episode 4 of season 1. I'm like, have we been having Billy Joel all this time? Turns out yes, and it makes sense. And if you've watched it, there's no plot twist. I mean,
no,
it's Billy Joel. It's Billy motherfucking Joel.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yeah. And again, I definitely, for me, saw like the music obviously is a through line for Eric Kripke from this show, from Supernatural through to The Boys.
Oh, yeah.
But I definitely saw a lot of like through lines of the kind of stories that he wants to tell and like the kind of things he wants to talk about. And like, I definitely saw the line between like the line of connection. I also watched Good Omens. Oh. So yes, which is amazing. And if you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it. And they just announced season 2 of Good Omens.
I thought that was a limited series.
Nope, they just Neil Gaiman just announced it like last week that they're going to do a second season, and they're literally going to start recording. I assumed you knew this.
I'm sorry, I threw my microphone down, and Megan told me a couple of weeks ago in like production meeting that I should stop doing that.
Yes,
I'm sorry, but that one actually shocked me. Like, if
mic drops aren't great in a non-visual experience.
No, but what I'm going to ask Megan to do, if I find a big gaping mouth, wait.
If you find a big gaping what?
Nothing.
If Kat finds a big gaping mouth.
Yes. I was going to say post on Instagram because that was my face, but maybe not. Because it may involve porn screenshots, I feel. So, I know. So I was like...
So they just announced that they're going to be filming in Scotland. It's based basically on the sequel that Neil Gaiman planned with Terry Pratchett prior to Terry passing away. Because they'd always planned to do a sequel and they had actually basically plotted it out not too long before he died. So, so that's coming, which I'm very excited about because the first season is amazing, and the fact that it's a story that Neil Gaiman and Terry both had basically plotted out before his passing. You know, and I trust Neil Gaiman explicitly. One of my favorite things about Neil Gaiman, of many things, is he is on Tumblr. And he's actively on Tumblr, which means if you are out there tweet like whatever, I don't like Tumbling about Good Omens, there is a chance Neil Gaiman will see it and respond to you. And those are some of my like little like screen grabs of people being like bloody blah blah, and then it's like Neil Gaiman responding, and then the person underneath like, I always forget that you're on Tumblr.
Yes.
And like Tumblr on Twitter posted like a bunch of like, I guess, Tumblr memes being like, does Neil Gaiman know what he's done? And he retweeted it and he was like, oh yes, I know what I've done. Like, I love Neil Gaiman. I love him so much.
Oh, good. Because like that show, I think I was telling you, like when it came out as a limited series, I was like, oh, that sucks. But at the same time, like it sucked. But also I was happy because you're not spoiling, like it's, you're not doing
You're telling the story that's intended to be told, which for a lot of things these days, I definitely prefer. I definitely prefer if you're like...
Miracle Workers is one of those shows.
Yes.
I love Miracle Workers.
But it's telling a really specific story that doesn't need... Like, no offense to Supernatural, because obviously...
Yeah, we're here for 15 seasons.
We're here for 15 seasons, but yes, this is a different thing. Like, the same thing with Orphan Black. Like, Orphan Black is 5 seasons, told one story, and once it was done, they're like, we're never doing Orphan Black again.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, but you could, like, there's more, and they're like, blah, 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 and they're like, yep, no. We want to tell this story.
Good Place.
Now the story, The Good Place, 3 seasons. Like
4 seasons.
4 seasons.
4 seasons. But still, that's what I mean. Like, it's that you've got the popularity, you've got the money, you've got the budget. I'm sure execs would, like, not even, it would go past their eyes and they would have all the rubber stamps stamping it. But it's keeping me integrity. And I'm... Good Omens, I was like, I feel like another season and that would be fine. And I'm obviously now getting that, so fucking hurrah for me, hence why my big gaping mouth. Oh, it really goes up. Phrasing?
Just keep going. Push past.
Push past. So I'm really glad, but
I feel like, because then there's the flip side where Supernatural goes so far that it comes back around again. Like, you know, it doesn't lose the integrity because it just goes past the integrity and comes back around to, like, it just keeps going. Like,
it's an infinite loop.
It's an infinite loop. But there's also been news about Supernatural that's come out. They're going to do a prequel. So do you want to talk about your kind of reaction? Because then I'll talk about my reaction.
Yeah, so I was, like, you messaged, this is how I found out. So I was at work. I'd finished some work and I'm like, Kat's going to treat herself with 5 minutes of internet time because I'm so adult. Business. Anyway, so I'm scrolling through, you know, passing the line of COVID articles where I'm like, don't care right now because this is my time.
Yep.
And then I saw prequel Supernatural and, like, I thought it was a clickbait. So I clicked on it. I was like, I'll click on it because obviously podcast. I was doing it for the podcast. I really know. I was just like, let's see what garbage you're going to give me. And then when I realized it wasn't a plot twist, it was actually going to happen. I'm like, the fuck? And to find out that Jensen and his real life wife, I mean, she's obviously real life.
his real wife.
His real wife, not real life wife, apparently, is going, like, they're going to play, like, they're going to,
yeah.
Your turn, because that was mine. I was I'm excited here for it. Let's see how it all unravels.
Here's what I'll say before we go any further.
Yep.
I don't think we can talk about this properly without spoilers. Like, I just don't think we can.
No.
So if you are listening to this and you genuinely don't want spoilers, in the description for this episode, I'll put the, like, timestamps of, like, where we start talking about spoilery stuff and where we stop, because I just don't think we can talk about any of what the prequel topic is without actually talking about plotting. Like,
do you know how hard it was for me to tell my thoughts about the prequel, and also thinking, don't give spoilers? I've been really good.
You did really well, and
Thank you.
think, but I just don't think we can go any further.
We cannot.
I want to talk about some stuff, and there's just, like, literally no way that I can talk about it and not give spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, there's the timestamp starting from kind of now until whenever where we're doing spoilers. You can skip past that, and
we'll even give you a countdown. Maybe we'll give a countdown.
Yeah.
3, we'll go 3. We know how to time.
Yep. 5,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so basically I saw the news in the morning, and if I'm totally honest, because the topic, or I guess the plot of it, is it's meant to be a prequel, and it's about Mary and John, or the Winchester family.
Yeah.
And honestly, my reaction when I saw it was, really? Really? That story? That's the story? Really? Okay. And then I percolated on it a little bit, and I sort of read a little bit more. So, as Kat alluded to before she got distracted by describing Daniil Ackles as being real.
Yes, that person, yes.
And we did cut this out of the podcast, but because it was a spoiler, but I guess I can talk about it now, which is Daniil Ackles much, much later in the show actually plays a character, which I'm not going to tell you what it is, only because Kat doesn't know. And I don't want to spoil things for Kat, because firstly, she forgets everything anyway. And secondly, it's way more fun for me when she doesn't know things are coming. But so she plays a character way, and so she's going to appear. Her and Jensen have a production company called Chaos Productions, or Chaos Productions. What this means at its core, though, Jensen owns the rights to Supernatural. Like, that's what this means, because it's his production company, and they don't want to just tell this story. Like, this is the start, or the first story that they want to tell in the Supernatural universe.
So potentially we may get another season of, like, Bobby.
Yeah, we could get like you could get, there's a lot of potential. And so that was my first thing, was like, there's only 2 human people on this planet who I really think have the right to own the rights to Supernatural, which is Jensen or Jared.
Yep.
Like, they are the only 2 people who I think have any right to have the rights of that.
Oh, yep. Because it's them. They created this world.
They are the reason that this world existed, and
they are the soup base.
Yes.
Sorry. I mean, like, it's sorry. But you know what I mean? Like, they're the main ingredient.
Yes.
To the soup.
They like, obviously Eric Kripke created this world. Obviously, like, you know, we have our favorite writers and directors and all that sort of stuff, but, like, its enduring legacy is these 2 creating this family and creating this culture that made it. So
they created the world.
And, you know, Jensen's a director, and he's directed a lot of episodes of Supernatural, and, like, that was my first thing, to be like, if this was just the CW wanting to cash in on Supernatural, I wouldn't be interested.
No.
But, like, Jensen has literally described Dean. He's like, Dean's right here. He's like, he is in me. He's not going anywhere. He's like, Dean is the best imaginary best friend that I've ever had.
Aww.
I know my heart can't handle that.
No.
Like, he loves this show to his core. And so I'm like, I trust Jensen.
Yeah.
And so it's not just a cash grab from the CW to cash in on the show to like keep it going. So
they're
that was
along for the ride.
Yeah. And then my second reason for being like, okay, is the writer that's been attached to this script that they're developing, which is Robbie Thompson. Robbie Thompson.
Oh my God, yes.
Who do you think Robbie Thompson is?
I was going to say Rob Thompson, as in Veronica Mars
No.
and iZombie.
No.
No? Oh. I'm going to stop leaning in.
I'm gonna maybe cut that man. Only because let me get there.
All right. I was like, oh, man.
So the writer that's been attached to it is Robbie Thompson. And Robbie Thompson wrote and created the character of Charlie. And he wrote almost every single one of her episodes. He also wrote like a ton of my favorite episodes. He wrote the 200th episode fan fiction. I wouldn't call it a musical. I wouldn't call it a musical. It has a musical in it. I would not. It's not a musical episode.
It has one of the favorite songs that John and I sing often to each other in the house. You know, John and Mary, husband. Look, I love that fucking song so much. Like, all right.
So he wrote that episode. He wrote a bunch of episodes.
The LARPing episode.
Yeah, he wrote that episode.
Oh, that's a great episode.
He basically wrote every single one of Charlie's episodes.
Oh, is he the one I have to hunt down and kill?
No. Because he didn't write that episode.
Thank fuck, because I'm like, did he write that episode?
No.
Good, all right.
No. He didn't write that episode.
Good thing we definitely gave the spoiler alert.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, we literally can't talk about this.
No.
Because I need to talk about the fact that he wrote this incredible character, like
strong female character, strong
LGBT.
Oh yeah,
QIA, positive character. You know, obviously having it played by Felicia Day is masterstroke.
Yeah,
but like he wrote a ton of my favorite episodes. Like I said, including the 200th episode.
Yeah,
he wrote a bunch of episodes in season 11 that I love. Robbie Thompson, I really trust him. I think particularly because he wrote fan fiction, and that episode to me is a really beautiful encapsulation of. Like, he gets the show.
Yeah.
And he gets the characters and
the nuances.
Yeah, and he writes these really beautiful things, and I just trust him to write something that doesn't kind of gloss over John or Mary or any of, like, you know, the fact that they are together because the powers that be essentially needed them to get together so that they could have Sam and Dean, so that they could have the perfect vessels for Lucifer and Michael. Like that's the whole reason. Like, I sort of trust him to deal with that stuff and not just gloss over it.
We already know because when Dean goes back in time,
we
already know some of how the story, like how Mary and John meet and why they meet and why there was some controversy. I won't spoil twist that because I kind of remember like Mary's from a hunting family, and John has no idea. So we get a couple of peppered through seasons.
And John's family obviously comes from the Men of Letters, and so.
That's right. Shit, because that's the bunker.
So, like, I'm really interested to explore as well. It's going to be set in the 70s. So, like, 70s clothes and 70s music and, like, 70s cars. Like, so, here's what I'll say. I'm willing to let them try. Anyway, I think we can probably wrap up talking about the prequel
we can now. Yeah. All right.
Shall we get into the episode?
This episode I forgot about, and I actually thought it was about vampires.
Right.
Because of the way that it opens. Because... I was like, is this where we meet vampires?
Oh, firstly, everyone drink, because we made that part of the drinking game last time. Every time you say, I've forgotten a plot point, I forgot that this happened, I forgot about this episode.
So everybody, now you're drunk.
So everybody drink.
Yeah, everyone have a lot of drinks. Because, I watched it and went, wow, I didn't know we got into vampires so quickly. Oh, no, actually we didn't.
No.
So, I guess I did forget the plot point. I think because it just reminded me of like other episodes in the series. So I was like, oh yeah, this is how it starts off. It's not. And this one, I was like, oh, cool. But it was a good it was good. It starts off. Do we know who wrote it? I mean,
we do. So we've actually got our boys together at last. Written by Eric Kripke, directed by Kim Manners.
Ooh, finally. Yeah.
Oh, suddenly a lot of things make sense. But we open on Chicago, Illinois, and we have a girl. She's walking down the street. She's listening to jazz, like she's maybe walking home from work. This girl had the most unintentional influence on me because she's really my vibe, particularly back then. Like, very cool, kind of clearly very like almost independent. Like, she's listening to jazz music, and I was just like, I didn't even know you could just like listen to jazz music, like,
and own your shit.
I was a bit obsessed with her.
Also, the haircut, the fashion. Like, she doesn't look. She could walk around. Like, she could literally walk to. Like, I could pass her in the shopping center, and I wouldn't go, "Holy shit!" The 2006 clothes. They want the clothes back.
Yeah,
she looked modern, like, even but back then she would have been like the young cool chick, like the weird,
it's very
vibey.
Like alternative indie, absolutely my vibe, 100%. But then she gets chased by a figure, very menacing. It's very scary, like this like shadow of like it looks like it might be a man
calling her name.
It's really scary, and just like generally scary if you are a woman walking at night by yourself.
That's the first thing. That was my note. I was like, isn't it odd that as a woman watching this, when she was walking by herself with headphones in, I was like, that's something you shouldn't do. And then I had to pause and go, holy shit, have I only just realized that this is, holy shit, like culture. We won't talk about it because that's not its own podcast.
That's also its own podcast.
That's also its own podcast.
Anyway, so she gets chased by this mysterious figure. She goes back to her apartment. For me, when I was 17 and I was starting to think about becoming like an adult and like what I imagined that life to look like, you know, I was single. I really wasn't thinking about a life with like a person when I was 17. Her apartment, I was like obsessed.
Oh yeah.
Like it's so my aesthetic. It's like this independent, like clearly this independent person who's put aside a bit of money. She lives on her own. Like she clearly has this cool job where she works at a bar. Like I was a bit obsessed with this girl and the backstory that I created for her. Like because she was so my vibe and so my aesthetic, and like I was really into everything about her, and she unintentionally had a pretty big influence on my life. Meredith, thank you for your weird influence on my life. So she gets into her apartment, she locks all the doors, she bolts the door, she turns her alarm system back on. And again, this is like
protection,
playing on some fears as women,
as a single woman
living alone, that this podcast does not have time to get into in depth, but like the true fear of not being even safe in your own home, and like not, you know, she did everything right. You know, she got into her house. She's got a bolt.
Windows are locked properly. Like everything is like secure. She's not leaving a window open for a breeze kind of thing.
Yeah, and she gets attacked by this figure, and it clearly, again,
you mean condom fingers?
Yes, weird condom fingers. Implied to tear her to shreds. Once again, not the greatest of CGI.
No, I was like, is that CGI sperm or is it condom fingers? I went with condom fingers.
That's the cold open. We then cut to Sam and Dean rocking up a while later.
Yeah, about a week I think it was.
And they are dressed as security repairmen. I love an elaborate costume.
Yeah. I feel like it's more Sam that likes the costumes because we find out in this episode where Dean's a bit huffy because he's telling Sam, he's like, oh, these elaborate costumes, like they cost money. Money doesn't grow in trees. You know how hard it is to do credit card fraud?
So they go in pretending to basically do an analysis on the apartment and
find out what happened and why their security system failed.
Exactly. And I guess like superintendent or maybe like the manager of the apartment
the property
building,
manager,
she's like, well, your systems are shit because it was on and she was everywhere. She was all over the apartment.
She was torn. She was over there. She was really well adjusted for someone who found her a couple of days later.
Yeah.
Basically in every part of the house.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, the apartment. So, well adjusted, because I would have, if that was me, I'd be like, she was fucking everywhere. Like, I would not be there. I would not be present. I'd be like, I'm taking some personal time. Someone else can manage this building while I am in the loony bin, because I've seen someone a week later strewn over the office, like strewn over her place in pieces.
Yeah. And then they are sort of looking around the house, like looking around the apartment. They're like, there's really nothing here. It's like not a werewolf because the lunar cycle's not right.
Yep.
And then Dean notices some blood splatters on the ground and realizes that they make
on a rug
a weird symbol, which every time I see this, I'm like, dude, how?
Yeah. Because like,
I'm impressed. I'm not saying I'm not impressed, but I'm also like, I don't see it.
Yeah. Because we get an overhead shot at, like, it's very, very fleeting, of the rug that has all these splatters on it. And I thought they were fur because they're so dark.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, maybe it's fur. And again, because I forgot the plot of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's listening and doing the drinking game, you're drunk.
Sorry.
Please don't drink and drive.
And
I assumed it was fur. And then when they did then, Dean's like, fine, get me some masking tape. And I'm like, okay, you're going to. And I literally thought he was going to do like, CSI, get the tape on the fur on the tape to then take away to, I don't know, study.
Yeah.
I thought way too scientific on that one. Clearly not. And then when he starts like just ripping the tape and they're ripping it and it's like a montage of them putting tape on the ground, I'm like, what? That is like walking up to like a Pollock painting and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And trying to make a symbol out of it.
Yeah.
It's not a symbol, mate.
Yeah.
But all right.
So they find this symbol and they're like, we need to go do some research.
Yep.
They go to the bar that Meredith works at.
Yep.
Dean tries to interrogate, quote unquote, the bartender.
Is it no, Amy was the police officer, we find
Amy
out.
was the Sagittarian police officer.
Yeah. She has a tattoo somewhere where we don't know, but we assume somewhere in the naughty places.
Yes, somewhere fun.
Yeah.
Bet it's a tramp stamp. It's 2006.
It's 2000. It's so a tramp stamp.
It's so a tramp stamp.
Or it's on, you know where it is? It's on the hip bone.
Yes. On the front.
Yeah, on the front.
On the front.
On the pubis, near the pubis.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Dean gets the number of the bartender, but also not very much helpful information.
No.
Meredith was well liked.
Or as I like.
It's very normal.
As I like what Sam calls it, he's not thinking with his upstairs brain.
Yes.
And I fucking lost it. I was laughing for so long. And I now use that in my daily life. Like, are you using your upstairs brain? No?
Sam hasn't really figured out what the symbol is.
No.
And then they're sort of talking about what the next move is. Then Sam sees a familiar face.
But he looks past Dean and it's almost like laser focus because for him to get to who this familiar face is, there's a lot of people he has to navigate through. So I'm like, what? And then we see the back of a blonde head.
Yes. And we realize that it's Meg, who we met back in Scarecrow.
Yes.
By the side of the road now. Obviously, at this point, we, as the viewers, know that she's up to some shenanigans.
Yeah, she's not on the up and up.
She's not a good person, question mark. But Sam and Dean obviously don't know that. Dean obviously has no clue who she is whatsoever. So Sam and Meg have this kind of flirty conversation. He's obviously got his story all worked out that he's visiting family.
Yep.
She has her story all worked out. Not that Sam knows that. That she...
But he does have some questions that on the second watching of it, I was like, they're very, obviously remembering the plot of the episode, they're very much like, I need information from you. And it was very organic of the way how he found out her last name. Hang on, why aren't you in California? Where are you from?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, son!
Yeah. So he finds out that because she was originally going to California.
Yeah, that's where he was going.
Yeah, back in Scarecrow. She went, she came, she saw, she conquered.
Yeah,
she met Chad Michael Murray.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, One Tree Hill.
Yeah, so yes, he was One Tree Hill, but he was in Gilmore Girls with Jared Padalecki in the first season.
Was he?
Yeah, so they know each other.
Yeah, wow, he got around in the 2000s.
He sure did.
Because he was in Friday Night Lights. He was in One Tree Hill. He was in some movies, obviously. Cinderella Story.
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic with Hilary Duff. And I love Hilary. Love her. Love everything about her. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why that joke's there. Because then he goes, who? Because she's like, someone Michael Murray. And then Sam goes, who? And obviously that's the joke.
That's the tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Yes, it's the nod. That's the nod, is because they do actually know each other.
And Kat's just like, eh?
Yeah. Kat's like, okay.
Yeah. Standard of my life, really. It's how I live my life.
Yeah, and that's why I do the research for the podcast.
Yeah, that's why Kat's just here for the talking.
Yes. Kat's just the talent.
Yeah, flicks hair.
Meg rips into Dean because obviously the conversations that Sam had back in Scarecrow, this was after their massive fight.
I also like when he clears his story because he clearly wants to be introduced so he can, use his moxie. And he's just like, and she's like,
dude, cover your mouth.
Like, don't be gross. And we know as the audience that she knows who he is and she is on brand for herself to try and win Sam over.
Yeah, absolutely. So she rips him to shreds and he's like so uncomfortable. He's like, I'm going to go get
I like how he just like shimmies away.
Like, I don't understand what's happening.
He's like, oh, well, awkward. I'm going to go get a drink. And then just leaves. It's like, shit.
But when Sam and Dean leave, Sam is like, immediately like, no, there's something going on here. I met her randomly by the side of the road just after you and I had a massive fight. And now we're here and she's here too in the bar of the woman whose death we're investing. He's like, this is not a coincidence to me. And Dean's a little bit like, I think you're not thinking with your upstairs brain. I think you're
using your upstairs brain too much.
Yeah. He's like, I think you're a little into this girl. Like, I think that's what you...
But also, that's after he rips him to shreds and goes, what did you tell this random chick?
Yeah.
Are you luggage? Do you feel like I'm treating you like luggage?
Yeah.
And he's very offended. But then Sam's just like, I'm disregarding your little tanty right now because these facts are facts and this is like, this makes no sense. Like, this is not and he's like, it's a coincidence. He's like, that's not a coincidence. This is the chain of events. And he's like, I need you to go do these things. And Sam's is like, and I love that. Sorry, not Sam. Dean is like, yeah, you need to start using your downstairs brain. Come on.
He's like, so you're going to, he's like, I'm going to keep an eye on Meg. He's like, sure you are, pervert.
Yeah.
And this is, my next note for this is like, you really feel the difference of this being a Kripke episode. Like, you can see Jensen and Jared are super comfy with Sam and Dean.
Yep.
Like, they're really, really comfy with, like, particularly because we've fairly recently did Route 666, which we talked about, like, how it felt really laboured and the dialogue really didn't work. And, like,
it was very still.
But even coming from the last 2 episodes that we've done, like, there's just something else here when it's Kripke's written episode. And even then, to have Kim Manners being the one that directed. Like, you can sort of feel that there's something else going on in this episode.
It's very natural. It's very organic. Everything seems to click into place. Like, there's no clunk. There's no... And obviously Meg and her character, when we find out throughout the episode, it's also quite organic as well. Like, everything makes sense.
Yes.
And all the supporting characters are doing the things.
Yeah, it's really well written, and you can see how comfy they are in their characters, and you're not really seeing them trying to, like, think about the acting that they're doing. So I just really noticed that in this exchange, and just the clipping back and forth between the two of them was like,
it wasn't forced and it wasn't stagnant. It wasn't it almost felt like it was ad-libbed.
Yeah, it was really leaning into their chemistry. It was really leaning into these characters. And so I feel like you can really see the difference in this episode.
Oh, especially where we come from.
Yeah, some of the rougher episodes we've had of, like, just having a Kripke episode and having him write and these
especially we're getting close to the end as well. We're 6 episodes out from the season.
Exactly.
Finalized.
Sam goes to keep an eye on Meg. Dean goes to do research. Dean calls Sam while Sam's keeping an eye on Meg in her apartment and sort of talks about the fact that the sign is for a Deva, which is a Zoroastrian god, which always makes me think of Ghostbusters, because I'm 99% sure that Zul is Zoroastrian as well.
Nice.
So it always makes me think of Ghostbusters.
I mean, sure.
Sam is like, wow, I didn't know you could, like, figure all this out. And he's like, no, ultimately Dean reveals that he called one of their dad's friends.
Yeah.
But, Dean saw a symbol in carpet, so,
that I thought was fur. So, I mean,
he's... So, they've both got strengths. And so now they know what it is, that it's a shadow creature that is attacking, but it's like caging a pit bull to, like, have a Deva attack people. And, like, it's kind of crazy that someone has to be controlling it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Sam sees Meg leave the apartment.
He's watched her up in the get changed, like
gets called a pervert.
By a lady walking past. He was watching her. She wasn't undressing. She was getting dressed, like, there's no boobs, but we do see a very sexy black bra.
Yes.
Very sensual black bra. And I don't know if he's feeling it. I think he's just like, something up with you. But we find out that Dean has also done research to find out who Meg Masters is, and that she's a real person, and everything that she said to Sam was correct.
Yeah, that, like, her backstory checks out and she seems to be normal. And so Dean's like, why don't you go up and give her a private stripogram?
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh God, Dean. I'm like, Dean, no.
Dean, I mean, again, this is a Kripke episode, so the moxie is at a 10 out of 20 out of 10.
And it's also, he is trying to push Sam in a sense of they've gone through some things. And obviously with not Benders, but with Route 666. Sam was doing the pushing of Dean to go get your freak on, and all those things. So I feel like it's now Dean's turn to return that favor. Yeah. But in a sense that there's no chemistry here.
And I think that, like, I actually find that really interesting that that Sam's immediately suspicious, because that's what you expect from him and from a Winchester is, like, this is suspicious.
Yep.
And I'm really glad that they kind of went that way instead of him being, like, innocent and, like, I just appreciated that, like, his instincts kicked in, which is what they should do automatically. Yeah. And obviously she's still trying to play this role that she's created that's meant to be getting on his side. Yep. I just realized, since we're sort of talking about perverts, and this is 100% the fault of The Boys, because I finished The Boys and then I watched this episode, and for the end of season 2 of The Boys, there is a climactic moment towards the end with Homelander. There's a climactic moment with Homelander
at the end
that probably put this note into my mind, which is like, how do they jerk off? Sam and Dean. They share motel rooms all the time. Do we think they have like a boy code that like if you come in,
I say the
like,
shower.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they just jerk off in the shower?
Because you know what? I've had this thought too.
Yes, because like
I don't mean like not to sexualize them. I mean because Meghan does that for everybody.
Yeah, you
really.
welcome everybody.
But in the sense of like, as siblings, like I had my own room.
Yeah,
I was a teenager. I know what I did. Like,
Yeah.
Like, God knows what I did. If there is a God, he knows what I did. And, you know, have fun, mate, looking at that. You big perv.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're, like you said, they're always in dodgy hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they do go for a shower,
Mm.
those walls are thin.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm assuming, I just assume there's a bit of a cone of silence scenario. If you're in the shower and you take 30 minutes to have a shower,
no one's questioning it.
Nobody's business.
Nope.
Like if that door's locked, you're not just bursting in to like brush your teeth because they're like brothers. So like, I'm not trying to be weird, guys.
Yeah,
but
don't
like
Google. Do not.
No. We're not even opening that can of worms.
Yeah, no, don't Google that, please. But I also, you know how like a lot of episodes we've seen, like one of them goes and gets coffee. In my brain, you know how I write stuff. You know how I write things that the stuff that's not on screen.
Yep.
You know how I do that. My brain legit has written that when like Sam or Dean have gone off to go get coffee, it's enough time for. It just always seems like when they have had the magical internet in their hotel rooms that are dodgy, like when it's 2006, where Dean has gone off to go get procure like pie or junk food or coffee, and Sam's alone. I feel like Sam may just as a precaution go into the bathroom,
lock the door
in case Dean comes back with coffee quicker. But I feel like that's a good 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well,
you're welcome, guys.
Wow, we just talked about masturbation.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think we solved that mystery.
We have, but also good one.
Yeah. I entirely blame the last episode of The Boys because that's where my headspace was, and then I watched this episode.
Oh boy.
Yes. Anyway, so Sam follows Meg. He goes to this warehouse. He like climbs up in the elevator shaft.
The very old school
watches her. She's got the same kind of chalice. That you Goblet is the word that you're looking for.
Thank you. I was like, goblet?
I figured it out way after that conversation. I don't even know how much of that I kept in the episode because it went on for a while, and I was like, I don't think that's the word you're looking for. But the word you were looking for is goblet.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Not gauntlet. Gauntlet is like a glove.
There we go.
But the word you're looking for is goblet.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Anyway, she's got that same goblet or chalice that she had in Scarecrow. She's talking to someone. She's saying the Winchester boys are here. Like you shouldn't come. Like I didn't know they were going to be here.
Yep.
So it's clear or implied because there's an altar and you need an altar to control the Deva. That maybe Meg is the one controlling this, but that there's something or someone else.
She's working
involved.
for someone.
Yes. And so she goes back. Sorry, not she. He goes back. Sam goes back. Runs into Dean. Love when they talk in unison. It's very cute when they talk in unison. They're both like, dude, I got to talk to you. Sam explains everything that he's seen. You said the Deva are like animals. They're not capable of communication. So clearly there's someone else that she was communicating with.
Yeah.
And Dean's like, well, now I need to tell you what I've found, which is that both of the victims, because we haven't mentioned it, but there was another victim, a much older guy who was like an investment banker, so couldn't be further away from Meredith's world. There was really no connection.
No connections whatsoever.
But they were both born in Lawrence, Kansas, so they were both born in the boys' hometown.
Yeah, which when we know, like when we like the episode of like the first episode, it's interesting because we get the sense that Lawrence, Kansas is like a country town.
Yeah.
Small fucking town, and yet you've got two people living in the same city. Again, I feel like that was a bit of a little plot point because we're talking about how Meg is in this town. It's like that's too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
And then you've got these two people who are from different generations because obviously Meredith is younger. The first victim was older. Yet they're in the same town.
Yeah.
But also, we're in Chicago, so Chicago is also a big town or a big city.
Yeah. So I think Lawrence is bigger than we think it is. We think it's a small country town. I don't think it's a small country town. Because it's a real place.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like it's a real place in Kansas. Like it's not a place that they made up for the show.
Okay, cool.
And it's from what I know, it's like a regular medium-sized like city. Kinda. Yeah. Okay, cool. Like a city. So it's not teeny tiny.
Okay, cool.
Sorry. I think in our heads we were just like Lawrence, Kansas is mid tiny, but it's actually not.
Okay, cool.
It's like a normal sized
I learned something.
town /city. They think Meg is involved maybe with the demon that killed their mum. All of this is falling together. Like Meg being here, like Sam running into her at these two kind of pivotal points of their story.
Obviously now the victims coming both from Lawrence.
They're like, maybe this is the demon. Maybe this is it. Like maybe this is what we found. Maybe that's who's coming is the demon. And so they're getting ready. They're preparing their arsenal to go and fight this thing. And Sam is like, imagine if this is it. Imagine if this is over.
Oh, this scene.
And this is, again, this is Kripke. And like, he's like, I will sleep for a month. I could go back to school. I'll be a normal person again.
Dean's eyes of puppy dogs, of broken hearts. It's like going to an adoption center, knowing you're going to get a pet because you want to do the right thing. And you see 20 animals, but you know you can only take one, and seeing all their disappointed faces looking at you. That is what I felt today.
And Sam's like, well, Dean, what do you want for yourself? Like, because Dean's like, there's always going to be something else to fight. There's always like evil.
This is not it.
This is not the end of anything.
No.
It's always something else to hunt. And Dean's like, well, I don't want you to leave straight away. You know, I want us to go back to being a family. And Sam's like, well, we are a family, but we can't ever go back to what we were before I had the fight with Dad, before I left for Stanford. Like, and Dean's like, well, why not? He's like, well, Sam's like, I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. And it's just
Dean's face of just being heartbroken. Of just, when he says that, and you just see, it's almost like Dean taps into, in his inner child. It's like, he's had so much upheaval in his life. We keep forgetting that he has had trauma since his mum died. He was around. He understands what happened. And then to hear his baby brother, who I got you when Dad was missing because I missed you. Like, yes, you were here to help me, but I missed you. Like, I want my family back. Broke my fucking heart. I was like, oh God, is that what kids of divorce feel like? Oh God. Like, it was very much tapping into that. He's grieved, and he's like, the only thing that's gonna make me feel whole again is being around my family.
And I think it's also taps into Dean's kind of inherent abandonment issues, which we've talked about, like in Skin, that the Skinwalker tapped into that and was like, you know, everyone always leaves me. You know, Mum left, and then Dad left, and, you left. And we sort of, unfortunately, like we talked about in the episode, wish it had been in a different episode, in a different context, been Route 666 with Cassie. Like, he put himself out there, like, maybe we've got a future, and she shut him down. And like, all of this kind of plays into his abandonment issues, that like everyone always leaves in the end. And Dean,
baby Dean,
sweet baby angel. But then Sam's also right. Like,
you can't live in the past.
You can't live in the past, and you have to pick your own journeys together. Heartbreaking scene. Great acting on both of their parts.
Both of them.
Both of them acted their faces off. It was really good.
It's funny because Jared becomes like, his response is almost like being the older sibling. And I guess it's, you and I both know, it's having self-awareness. Because he hasn't had the same journey as Dean as a child, because he was an innocent 6-month-old baby when this all kicked off. He doesn't have the same trauma, so therefore he's been able to grasp things a lot easier. And when he's always challenged the status quo of what Dad and Dean are doing, because he doesn't understand why, he's growing self-awareness quicker, and that's why he was able to leave, even though he left on bad terms with his dad to go to Stanford. He still managed to get out and grow as a human, whereas I feel like Dean is still teenage Dean that was trying to please Dad.
But I also think, like, as the oldest, you feel that loyalty, and you sort of, trying to talk about this without getting too spoilery is really hard.
I know, it's really hard.
Because we know things more about stuff that happens later. I don't know if I can talk about any more, because I think it's too spoilery.
But at the same time, like,
I just think that, like, there's more going on here than just Dean not having, like, self-awareness. I think he's very self-aware, but just...
It's reserved more so than Sam, because Sam's obviously done things like he's left the hunting life. He shut the door on that when he went to Stanford. He made clear paths for himself, because I think that's just his personality. I think he's much like, I know where I've come from, but it's the whole generational trauma. He's like, I'm going to switch that off, and I'm going to go forward my own path and have my own life and have my own family, and it's not going to involve this.
Yeah, I can't talk about anymore
Okay,
because
cool.
it's all spoilery stuff for
It's all
stuff
good.
that happens in later episodes. But I have a lot more to say, and I guess we'll get there. So they go to the warehouse. At
Yep.
some point, they've called Dean called their dad to be like, "We think we found the demon. Like,
Yep.
we think this is what's going on." And my note here, does say, "My dudes, how do we not know that this is a trap? Because it's clearly a trap.
Yeah.
Like, it's
much trap. Oh yeah,
such trap."
She knew Sam was peeking and rooting around. Like, I shouldn't say rooting around, but he was like, peeping on her. Like, she obviously, if she has a cup full of blood, and she's talking to nothing, bitch knows.
Yeah, it's so obviously a trap, but I guess we're talking about season 1 Sam and Dean here, so they obviously didn't realize they're young. They didn't realize that it was a trap.
Yeah.
So they go to the warehouse. They try and sneak up on Meg. She knows that they're there. Yep. She sets the Daver on them, knocks them out. They wake up. They're tied up.
Then my really good. Like, whoever did the makeup, like the CS, was it CPX,
VFX?
Thank you. Really good job. Like, really good.
Like the tears in their face look really real. Like,
it was like, okay.
It looks really good. She explains the whole thing was a trap, and so this is like layers upon layers upon layers. Obviously, like, we knew that Meg was bad, but Sam didn't know, and then Sam works it out, and then and so there's lots of layers to this, and so Meg reveals obviously it's a trap, guys. Duh, it's a trap. But then she reveals that the trap is for their dad. Yeah. The trap is not for them.
Yeah.
Because she knows she knows that their dad has one weakness, which is them.
Yep.
And there's one thing that is going to get him to show up, and that is capturing Sam and Dean. And then things get, as I put in my notes, things get weird and horny.
Yeah, but in an odd way, and I feel like because they're both tied up against posts, obviously Meg is not getting horny on Dean. She's getting horny on Sam.
Yeah.
But it's very like Jasmine and Jafar.
Yes.
Very much like
she's for some reason both Jasmine and Jafar.
Yeah, it's both. But it's very much like, it's just like Jafar. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I was watching this, and Dean's just obviously, he's obviously, where they got fucking kitchen knives, like butter knives.
They're like little, well, they're not butter knives, they're like proper little knives.
Yeah, and then, he's managed to get out, and then, she's all like, oh, it was just a lie, and I didn't like it. I get it. And I mean, this is how it actually would be if you were trying to seduce the enemy, right? Like, it's very awkward, uncomfortable,
weird,
not horny, is not ticking any of my, like, juicy boxes.
No.
Like, no. And then all of a sudden, he's just like, oh, it wasn't a distraction for me. It was a distraction that I've distracted you the entire time, and I'm going to, like, throw you off me.
Yeah.
As he picks her up. And in this scene, again, I've mentioned this before, where Jared the actor, is quite tall and obviously has big hands. When he picks up and throws her, it looks like he's picking up like a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Because
she's
again,
quite small.
She's quite small and he's quite ginormous. And it just looked like he was just throwing a piece of paper across the room. So it was like, things I've noticed when Jared is tall.
Yes. So they both have like knives concealed upon their person somewhere. At first, Sam is distracting Meg. She's getting all up in his grill in a kind of gross way. But she realizes Dean's trying to break loose. And then
she gets huffy about that, by the way.
She gets huffy about that. Then she goes back to Sam.
Question though. Do you think she's huffy because she had to stop making out with Sam? Or she's huffy that Dean was trying to escape?
Both. I would say both. Yeah, she just wants to have her fun.
She's just a little bit crazy.
Because they don't really know what Meg is. They don't really know, what her affiliation is with the demon. But by Sam getting loose, he throws her off and the Daver attacks her. Oh, he destroys the altar, and that causes the Daver to attack her. Because
that's the other thing that I realized that he does, because it's almost like it's at his knee height.
Yeah.
And he like flips it, and I'm like, mate, you could have just kicked it with your toe.
Yeah. And so that obviously sets the Daver on her, and they throw her out a window.
Yeah.
So
she falls so gracefully out the window, though.
It like all of that stuff did look quite good.
Yeah, like it holds up.
So they head back to the motel because they left a bunch of stuff there. They open the door and there's like a
shadowy
menacing figger.
And he does like a side profile kind of turn, like, who the fuck are you kind of attitude.
And then we realize it's Dad.
It's Dada!
He's back. He's here. Meg had said that she knew that Dad was in town, and that's how she knew he was going to come. And they were both like, no, he's far, far away. But obviously she did know something that they didn't. because he clearly was there, but he had decided not to come because he thought it was a trap.
Yeah, he was right.
And I just really love this interaction. Like Dean immediately like runs to give him a hug and like,
yes, sir.
Like Sam, but both of them sort of fall back into those patterns.
Oh yeah, yes, sir.
And Sam obviously doesn't hug him, and I really appreciate that kind of awkwardness between him and John. Like, of are we going to talk about this? Are we not going to talk about this? Is now the time? And I love that
John just brings it up. He just goes straight into it. He's like, "Hello, Sam. I know last time we met, we left things, you know, in a bad place. Yeah, and it's almost like his way of saying sorry. Like he's not being the awkward dad. Like I'm just going to glaze over this, and you're going to hug me. And I think Sam realizes that Dad always did love him, and he wasn't, you know. And I love that he just, I don't know. There's just like a moment where Sam realizes that he's proud of where he's come from. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this is too much.
Yeah, and obviously, Jeffrey is an incredible actor.
Yes.
And so he's, it's good to see him.
Yes, it's good to see Dad.
It's good to see him after all this time. They're actually all back in the same room together. First time for the season that they're all in the same room together.
Yeah.
At least as adults. He reveals that he is working out a way not just to exorcise the demon, not just to send it back to hell, but to kill it. But it's really dangerous. There's people after him. So Sam and Dean cannot come along. It's too risky. Like, he'll be putting them at risk. They're all each other's weaknesses. Sam's obviously furious about this after all this time, after all of this searching, to be told, like, no, you can't come with me. And he's like, this thing killed Jess. Like,
I've vested interest in that.
I have vested interest. And John says something very interesting. He says, this is just the beginning. We've all got our parts to play in this. And Sam's very confused, like, what does that mean? And then the Deva attacks. Again, and we see, obviously they don't see Meg outside the window. Somehow she survived the fall from 6 or 7 floors, unclear. Like her spine should have broken.
Yes, her skull should not be a circle. It should be a flat line.
Yeah, so she's set the Deva on them again. Sam defeats it though because he gets a flare gun out, which is very clever.
Yeah, I love
a fire gun.
Yeah, a fire gun. I know. I was just like, fire gun. He's like, these are a shadow demon. One thing that let's bring into the light.
Yeah.
And because they were coughing and sputtering, I'm like, was it a flare gun? Was it a fire gun? Or was it some kind of like smoke? Because there was a lot of smoke.
Yeah, I think it was just like a flare. Not a flare gun, just like a flare. Which does have smoke and stuff. So,
hence why they were smoking. Because we find that the Deva actually attacks all 3 of them, but it was really going for John.
Yeah.
Because they pinned him up against the wall, against with these like wrists and stuff, and they managed to get out. So Dean goes and grabs John, pulls him out. Sam's bashing lamps. This place had a lot of lamps, like, because he falls into one and then he falls into another, and then as he's leaving, I'm like, how many fucking lamps are against the wall? Like, it's a lot of lamps. But anyway, they get out and Meg leaves them alone.
Well, I don't think she realizes what's happened. Obviously, the Deva's been defeated.
Yeah.
And so Dean manages to convince Sam. He's like, we cannot go with Dad. We put him in danger by going with him because we are his weak spot.
Yeah. Meg said we are his weakness.
Yeah. And they will not stop coming. And we can't do this. And Sam's obviously not happy about this, but eventually agrees that he will go with Dean. Dad will go off. And, when time is time, they will come and defeat this demon. And as they're leaving, we see Meg, in the distance.
Twirling her little pendant.
Yeah. Somehow alive.
And magically not covered in blood.
But yeah, that's the end of the episode.
And they drive away in different directions. Yeah.
I love this episode. This is this is such a good episode. It's a combo of Kripke and Manners. Like, you can't go past it. Our 2 boys together at last.
Yeah. Yep. It works because there's so many things are actually happening. And it's nice to not just focus on, like, Monster of the Week. It's actually, we're in the arc now.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I love a good Monster of the Week, obviously, because I've watched up to 11 seasons.
Yes.
Have forgotten most of what's happening.
Doesn't know what the plot is.
Don't understand what the plot is. I don't know why I'm here. I mean, I don't even know what my name is. But it's good to jump back into the main thread of the season.
Yeah.
Because we are heading to the end of the season, so it's nice to get back in there and work out what the fuck is actually happening. And that means obviously tying in John, tying in this presence we're meant to be a demon.
Yeah.
This thing we're hunting.
Figure out what Meg is. Like, all of this stuff is finally starting to all come together. So, really good episode. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app. give us a review and a rating if you can, please, preferably on iTunes. You can follow us on Instagram at We Will Talk About It Pod. You can follow us on Twitter at We Will Talk Pod. Our show notes are at wewilltalkaboutit.com, and you can email us, wewilltalkaboutitpod@gmail.com. In the meantime,
stay safe and be suspicious of sultry women.
bye, guys.
Bye.